Hello and welcome to the 4th episode of the Beyond Grief podcast. I'm your host, Marie Tati, and I am so excited to announce that I have my first guest on the show this week. My friend Taylor Johnson, who's a poet, an author, a recipient of numerous prestigious awards, a husband, a friend, and an all-around magical being. I'm really excited to introduce you to Taylor Johnson. We're going to start with one of his poems.
Sounded through. From forever in the glade and unendingly so, the animal choir sings my grandfather to forever. Forever is the sound of a seed opening, and so opens his body, my grandfather, given back from attenuated beingness, the gray of which slips off as a seed from my finger slips into belonging. He was just turning a corner, just one foot following beside the other, but a bit behind as I would follow him, a bit behind, one thumb in his hammer loop, our boots ringed in dew. I danced in his shadow and fit my antlers on his head. Our language was twin green and nothing. He sang it from his elk body when he died.
I love your writing so much because it sings.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, it sings.
Thank you, my friend.
Even in your head. Because I read this silently, but it sings, and that's why. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to describe it, and that's what it is. Because it has nature. It is of nature, and it's picturesque. It puts me in the setting. It's so descriptive of the setting, and it creates a setting.
Yeah.
But really what it is it sings. Yeah, that just, hearing you say it. Thanks.
Thank you. I mean, I think what's so cool about poems, but maybe art in general, is like, it can create its own sense of time. Like, this is a moment. What I'll say about this poem is, like, this happened actually. Like, I was staying on a farm in Oregon in this little tiny house, and I got the call that my grandfather had passed away. And I kid you not, all the animal sounds happened at that moment. It was like 3 a.m., 2 a.m., something like that. All these animal sounds picked up. And I really felt like they got the message, or like were with me in the moment of like that deep knowledge, you know what I mean? That like this person who was so important to me is not of this realm anymore. He is with the animals, or he is with this other kind of force now. And so I wrote this down, and I was like, yeah, this is actually what happened. There was an animal choir, and it made it seem like he never left, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. It was really powerful. I think about it often.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel the power. It's making me warm.
Yeah.
And I'm tearing up a little bit because it's like I can feel it in my ears.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. It's not like goosebumps. It's like inside my ear.
Yeah.
Tingling. Whoa.
I've never heard so many animals together in my life since that moment or before then.
Wow.
It was nuts. And I'd never been in that location before, you know what I mean? Right. So it was like I was hearing elk, I was hearing bullfrogs, I was hearing who knows what else, you know what I mean? Wow. At this time. And it wasn't like a long thing, but it was significant.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Yeah.
And it was a multitude of sound.
Was it outside of time?
I felt outside of time.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to be present, like, not only with this knowledge, but also with, like, this occurrence that was happening in the animal world that I was in a part of, you know, that the simultaneity of that was outside of time, I would say.
Yeah. Wow.
It was nuts, but I love it. Yeah. I loved that moment.
I mean, I say a lot, and I think this a lot. I think of how when our loved ones pass, they can become anything.
Yeah.
They suddenly have, well, they're formless. And I've heard it described before that ancestors have 360 vision. So because they're formless, they can see way more things than we're able to see, which is why we propitiate them. But yeah, I mean, that it reminds me of that, you having that immediate direct experience with your grandfather's becoming whatever he wanted to become.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it is the animals.
Yeah.
It feels like it is.
It is.
It is the animal chorus.
Them. Yeah. It was them. And so much of our connection was about being outside.
Yeah.
So it made total sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been my honor to be with him when he passed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wasn't there.
Right.
And so I think that he probably knew that and also tried to visit me in some kind of way because we had that like nature-based, land-based connection. You know what I mean? Yep. It was incredible.
How has that connection continued or resurfaced or transmuted or shown up in other ways since then? Because what year was it that your grandfather passed?
2017.
Okay. So,
I think after that, he was an excellent cook, and I think after that my cooking became better. I began to view that act as like a time of connection with him too, a communication where I could kind of hear not like his voice saying do this or don't do this, but just the sense of like I felt more directed in the kitchen, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I had more of a not only a facility with cooking, but also like a sense of like an inner knowing of like, okay, hold the spice in this way, or add more of this, or like try this here. And that continues to this day. But I noticed it kind of in the months after he passed. I was like, oh, how interesting that I'm now like have this certain kind of facility with cooking.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know my guacamole story?
No.
Okay, so actually this was probably maybe around the same year as your grandfather's passing. It was probably around 2017. I suddenly knew how to make guacamole. Don't know how. And it was just, I just knew the ingredients. I knew the portions.
You know what? You did tell me this before.
I mean, it just is so wild to me. Every time I make it, I'm like, I can't believe this just came to me from the ether. Like literally like download from the Matrix. Like, I know guacamole. And I make some of the best guacamole that I've ever had.
Wild.
Yeah. But it's also happened to me here when I make, I always tell I make food for the household, and I say his ancestors talk to me. His ancestors speak to me about what to make because I'm making food for him. And I really feel that because I'll try things I'll think of things. I don't know where they come from other than that I am always open to the resonance, the information, the wisdom of ancestors, and having a relationship this close with someone where I am offering nourishment through the form of cooking. It becomes a prayer, and I want to think about. I want to respect the alchemy that nourishing somebody is. And so that's why it feels like, I talk to your ancestors about what to cook for you.
I feel that. I mean, I think that 2017, like when my grandfather passed, that was like one level up of my cooking, but then also getting into a relationship with my wife is also another level up. And that's so interesting that you articulate in that way. I never thought of that because not only am I feeding her physically, but I'm also like touching all the people who made her up, you know. And I remember the second thing that I made for her was red beans and rice, actually in Charlottesville rather, in that house. And I was so nervous because it's a dish my grandfather made all the time, and it's the thing that I can see, you know what I mean? I can see him making, I see him doing every step, you know what I mean? It ended up being good.
Yeah.
But it was like this moment of being like, I need to make this in a great way, not only to fulfill our human-based needs of like eating, but also to like let her into this this like world of taste that also built me up, you know what I mean? And is my grandparents' gift to her, even though she didn't meet them. You know? So yeah, food is really powerful.
I know.
That.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, I think that too. And I think, that's why in the past year I've been like, I eat out much less.
Yes. Oh my God.
Because I'm really connecting to the energetics of food, how it's made, who makes it, what they feel, where they come from. Like, food is magical in that way. It is as intimate. Now it's almost like it's as intimate as, not as intimate as sex. I'm not going to be that dramatic, but it's pretty intimate.
I mean, it's the thing that makes us up. Like, we have to eat to live.
Yes.
And it is such a pivotal part of our days. Like, it happens every day. We have to do it multiple times a day to sustain ourselves.
Right.
So
and it can
really
make
intimate.
or break you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Tangent on food. Which, of course, we would talk about when we talk about ancestors and talk about your grandfather. Talk more about him and your relationship.
Yeah, we were really close. I you know, he was a complicated man and did a lot of things that I don't agree with and find to be, you know, honestly reprehensible. But I think being able to love him has taught me how to love myself unconditionally. You know what I mean? Like, I know that he did some things that were messed up in life. Always have known that. But also, it makes me think about what it means to be human, which is just like, you're going to fuck up. Sometimes in really big ways, and it's going to be hard to get through that personally, you know? So, I think that having a relationship with him has really taught me how to be more in touch with, like, I'm human, I'm going to make mistakes, and I can still be okay as a human, you know what I mean? And, like, I can love myself through those mistakes that I make.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
And I don't think that that's something that I would have said even in 2018 or just, like, just after he passed.
Yeah.
That's not something that I would say. But I think I can say that now.
Right.
Having, you know, it's been time since that moment. So almost a decade, 8 years. So,
wow.
Yeah. But, wow. He was a cool dude, you know. I think so much of our relationship was, it's kind of like we were friends from before, and we just met at this, you know, wide age distance, which was interesting. But we always saw each other, and I think that's kind of rare in life to be born into a family situation where because I feel like family is so difficult, but to have that familial connection where you're like, you see each other. Yeah. It's something that I feel with friends, you know what I mean? Like, I feel that with you. Yeah. We know each other, we love each other, we see each other.
Right.
But to have a family member do that, it's something really different.
I agree. Yeah. It's not that common.
It's not given.
Yeah, it's definitely not given. Yeah.
So that feels like the base of our connection was like, we understood each other. And I don't even know the words for what that is. It's just, it is. Yeah.
And how does your relationship with plants and nature specifically tie into that?
I think being outside with him gave me a confidence to be outside, you know? Like, I like being outside because I was always outside with him. I know a lot of people have a hesitancy, especially black people in America have a hesitancy about nature that I never felt. It always felt like a place of comfort and a place of, like a recharging place, you know what I mean? And he was just he had quite the facility with growing things. And I think part of that is because he's from Louisiana where you know, in the way that he lived, he watched people grow everything that they ate and did the same. And he was also just brilliant. Like, he knew a lot about nature. He was an entomologist, a bug scientist. So
right.
He just knew things, you know what I mean? Like, he knew things and was probably a certified genius. but he was a black man in America too, you know. Yeah, he was a special guy. One of one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel so much the space right now in nature. I mean, I keep looking outside at the green, and something about it. I mean, you open with that poem, so I keep being drawn to the green. I think when you evoke him, it is evoking this sense of green, leaves, nature, connection to nature.
Like, I can smell the memories that I have of, like, planting different things with him when I was really little. I still I can smell the soil. I can smell, like, the ground opening up for rain, for instance. You know what I mean? All these things, I have such a visceral, kind of just deeply coded memory about the relationship that he had with food, particularly, you know, the food that he grew. The different, like, fruit trees and his tomatoes, just like all these things. I feel like I can still smell that land that he grew on. Yeah.
How did your grandfather grow up?
He grew up in he's from New Orleans, Louisiana. Born in New Orleans and then lived in Lutcher, Louisiana, which is one of the towns that's outside of New Orleans and, you know, in the river parishes rather. And he grew up watching his grandmother grow things and cook. And her name was Selena. And she could do everything. And I feel like he got that facility from her. Watching her cook, watching her grow things and deal with animals and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What kind of dogs did he have? Didn't he have 2 big dogs?
He had a dog.
One big white one.
What? Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about growing up. He had dogs.
Oh, but no, when he was on this land.
Oh yeah, they had dogs all the time. The last one I think was like a lab. It was big. It was a big black dog. Lucky. He was the last dog. And then before that, they had other dogs. The one who I connected with the most was Pepper, who was a Airedale terrier. We were talking about Airedales earlier. Yeah, he was very smart. Yeah. And again, yeah, I just feel like both my grandparents had a really interesting way with their animals, where they communicated with them, and their dogs protected them. Yeah, you know. Yeah, and that was cool to see. Right. Yeah.
And you grew up saying that. Yeah. Yeah, I think exposure to that is important as a child to begin to understand that there are multiple other forms of communication other than verbal. Yeah. To understand that early is like, just opens a brain space.
But even think about like how we communicate as humans. Like there's a significant chunk of time where we are pre-verbal, but we are still communicating with the people around us, our caregivers or whatever. Like we are still having to make things known to them through body language or sounds or like how we look at stuff, you know. And I think animals are just like kind of always in that place where they're like trying to read us and have us read them, you know. Just like forever babies, but they're not babies, but you know what I mean, like they're,
but it's so cute.
Yeah, it's really cute.
It makes me feel close.
Exactly.
And it actually makes me feel honored.
Yes.
That they would be as patient as they are, right, to just be like, I'm gonna keep trying to have you understand this. I'm gonna look at you in your eyes. We're gonna hopefully get to it together. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh my god, it's so cute. Yeah. Oh, I'm just saying it, so I'm like mushy about it.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful aspect. Yeah.
There was something else I wanted to ask. It was about your grandfather. Oh, maybe how your relationship with your grandfather and the things that you learned through him and your relationship with him affected your art, your practice of art, pre and post his transition into formlessness.
Yeah, that's interesting. What I would say is, like, I think that where my grandparents lived in Virginia was kind of like the foundation of my imagination. So oftentimes in my creative space, or like when I'm thinking about language that will become a poem, I'm often like playing out the language upon that landscape, if that makes sense.
Wow.
So much of my first book was dealing with like memory of how my imagination was shaped by that land.
Mm-hmm.
And that land is interesting. I mean, neither of them are from there. You know what I mean? They're both from New Orleans, but they lived there, and my only memory of them is living there. You know, they lived in D.C. also, but then they moved there. And that area of the country is the Tidewater, so it's like it's so important to American history. If you know the Great Dismal Swamp, it's where like black people marooned and escaped slavery there. But also we have like multiple early presidents born there. So it's like such an important piece of land to this idea of America. So I feel really honored to have spent time there and lived there for some time. But yeah, when I think about art making, it's more about like I'm kind of traveling to that location in my mind and being with them in that space. And I think something that I know is that like more than like anything direct about my art making that has to do with my grandfather, is that like I make art because I come from people who couldn't do this full time. You know what I mean? Ooh. Like the sense of like, as a, you know, black person, American descendant from people who were money at one point, who were considered money, who were the foundation of capitalism. I take my leisure to make art, and that is a powerful thing. And I think that's the only thing I can say about the connection there, is like I'm empowered to do it because they lived in the way that they did. You know what I mean?
If y'all could see me, I got my arms up like I'm in church. Like I got the arms up church wave happening right now, because that is moving through me. Yeah.
But that's the thing, because it's like, you know, you think about even on the level of our parents, there is this sense of work being something that is not about you, not for you, and for the profit of someone else, which is the history of black people in this country from, you know, 1619 and probably before that time. That you know, that we have been used for other people's dreams,
yes,
for other people's wealth building and all these things. And so my intention is to take some of that back. And as someone who creates art, I give that energy back to the people who couldn't access it in the way that I did, or the way that I do, rather. That energy is then transmuted and given to them as much as it's given to myself. But I always have to step out on the project of making art. Every day it's a choice. You know what I mean? I don't stop choosing it, even if it's hard. I have to choose it every day. And luckily that choice keeps meeting me with like yeses or just openness. You know what I mean? So more than anything, it's not that he said anything about making art, or even that my grandmother said anything about making art or my art. It was that they lived how they did and spent their time how they did, so that I could spend my time how I do. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And what about in his transition? Is that just...
Oh, it's just emboldened. Yeah. I mean, I was at, you know, you knew me. I made that decision in 2015. And you knew me then.
I saw you. I watched you make it. I learned so much about discipline. And the effect of it being time for you to focus on the thing that you're choosing. So that I mean, it just it has only increased my desire to do this to the fullest extent that I have capable. Man. Whew. You know, I mean, this is a very long conversation that this is just a segment of a conversation that we've been having.
We're always having this, like, for a decade now.
Yeah. So, you know, this is like a snippet. And I feel like that's a great just ending point, perhaps. But is there something specifically that stands out in your mind as something you want to express in connection with your relationship with grief?
Yeah. I don't think that I understood what grief was until my grandfather passed. You know, I think I understood it as like one thing and maybe time bound, but it's not. It's kind of like a continual thing. Like, I have grief that my wife has never met my grandfather, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And there's no real language for that, at least in our culture. There's no real language for that, so it's not a time-bound thing. It kind of continues to evolve as I evolve. Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, I totally experienced that too. And I say that, like, when milestones happen, I'm reminded again of the pain, sorrow, really, that it is that, yes, this person who's very important to me and was very important in my upbringing is no longer here in the flesh, to really just like reflect it and enjoy it and share it with me in that way. I felt that way when I joined the cast of Parable.
Yeah.
So we had our first, I guess, it was the first time I toured with them, and I missed my mom so much. And I hadn't been missing her that much for a while by then, because that was, my mom died in 2010. I joined the cast in let me see, when I really went on tour with them, it was like 2022. So that's 12 years later, 12 years of like living and surviving and learning how to thrive. But it was almost like taking this step in my thriving is something I really wanted to share with my mom. And I think mostly because I knew that she would be so proud.
Yeah.
That's why. Because I knew it was something she wanted to see.
Yeah.
And so it was almost like a grief for her that she wasn't physically in her body present to share it and to come to the shows and to be that proud mama who meets me after the show. And like, I really, really felt that. Yeah. And it was sort of unexpected. Yeah. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I was realizing I had this deep sadness at living into my dream role.
Yeah. I'll reflect back to you this thing that I remember about you, which is that in 2015, you told me this thing about your mom wanting to see you perform in front of a large stadium crowd that maybe she had expressed to you or you guys had talked about at some point, but it was like an early conversation on Fort Lincoln, this early conversation that we had about like you being in front of a large audience and like missing your mother in that realm. I remember that.
Wow.
So, you know.
So that was before I even got cast.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was, you know, it's so complicated. I mean, when you talk about people, like, you're talking about such complexities, just the whole spectrum of experiences with the person. And when my mother was on her deathbed, I had just come back from Brazil to be with her. I had done a concert in Brazil that went great, and I had a video of it, and she could not watch the video. She could not let herself grieve while she was there. She said it was too much. It just was. And to me, it felt like she wouldn't know how to turn off the tap. And I always wish that, you know, she gave herself more trust and space. That she'd be able to, you know, fully experience and express that grief, and that it would be okay. Everybody would be okay afterwards. Because, and after she passed, I remember I was sleeping in the house alone, and I don't know if I woke up or I was trying to get to sleep, but I heard sobbing in the house. I heard sobbing, and I kind of knew it was her. A lot of stuff was happening where she was still around. She touched my feet at one point, and I was like really weirded out because I didn't want to feel that. But yeah, I heard her sobbing, and I just knew like she was sad to leave us.
Yeah.
So I think that our bereaved ancestors also have their own form of grief.
Oh yeah.
For leaving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I believe that.
Wow, that's really deep. That drums up a lot of compassion.
Oh yeah.
It makes me want to cry for them.
Yeah.
For all of us, but in a cleansing, like, full circle, all-encompassing way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really deep how we could continue to have the effects on each other.
Yeah.
The way that your grandfather still affects you, and my mother still affects me, and how I still talk to her and ask her things and think about what she would think or say. But I also know that she has grown since then.
Yeah.
So I'm not attached to her being how she was when she left. She has since matured. So yeah, it's trippy.
It is.
It's trippy.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you wish them well on their journey.
Yeah.
Because they're on their own journey now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's always what it comes down to. It's like I continue to pray for her healing as well as mine, knowing that, like you were saying with your art, the way that I express what I'm allowed to express, what I choose to express is an extension of their work and their life. So, yeah, it is all good.
That's right. Thank you for having me. This is really exciting.
This is awesome.
I'm really into this.
I knew our conversation was going to be perfect. Yeah. You're my first guest, and
wow,
such a deep,
honored.
Yes,
oh my God,
such a deep friendship and soul, and artist and speaker and thinker. So it makes sense, and I thank you for saying yes and sharing that incredible poem.
Thank you. Thanks for reading it and being open to it when I sent after I listened to the first episode. I was like, this makes me think of something I wrote, not to be weird, but
nothing weird. I was like, I can't wait to share it. So yeah. Thank
you so much.
Thanks, friend. Love you.
Love you. Thank you.
All right, beloved. That was Taylor Johnson, the wonderful, magical, mystical Taylor Johnson. If you want to follow his work, you can look him up online at taylorjohnsonpoems.com. That's Taylor Johnson Poems with an S.com. And I look forward to you learning more about him and his work that is so poignant and melodic and picturesque. Thank you for joining me this week. It's a really wonderful journey to share with you my reflections on grief and how it's made room for more joy in my life. With this, I bid you adieu. Peace, beloved.